I look at it at this particular training program is definitely, we'll have some particular dedicated topics that will be covering as a part of this training program, but not only from the perspective of, right, of configuring it into the system. So we all are coming already from different backgrounds, right? You might be working uh, maybe not in APO or not in the planning module, but maybe you are from the background of ECC execution or somewhere similar to other, SAP or non-SAP backgrounds. Yeah? So we'll understand in the quick introduction later part of time. But yes, so will not only, the way I look at it at this particular training program is, first of all, at least whatever supply chain background we have, at the end of the day we should be able to map those stuff with the configurations that we do in the system, right? If we are creating a plant, that relationship with a particular product, why we are doing that, what's the thought process behind the master data that will be setting up, let's say for the supply or for inventory perspective, right? So we need we need to understand that high level perspective also. So that will be the main objective, to map all the configuration stuff to the um, to the scenarios or to the knowledge that we are already carrying. Or if we are not carrying any knowledge of the supply chain, then we need to look forward, um, that how do we develop it, and then how we do we try to map it, right, in terms of configurations that we'll be doing in the system, right? So what we'll be covering is will cover from three angles, right? So one angle, this training program will cover the demand side of it, right? So we'll talk about in detail about the forecasting stuff, all that, right? And the second perspective will be from the inventory side, right? So how the inventory plans are built out, all those we will see from the supply chain. Oh, Puneet is telling that unable to. Is it with everybody? Are you able to hear me, guys?
Yeah, we
Yes,
can
yes,
hear
you
you.
are properly audible.
Okay, okay, perfect. Yeah, I think Puneet, if you hear us, then I think it's some problem at your end. I just saw your message. So please reconnect or remove your this headset. Try with the speaker if it comes out. All right. And then the third perspective. Sorry, guys, I have a little bad throat. So the third perspective that we'll see, guys, is from the supply side. The supply side will try to understand, like, if for example there is a customer, right? So from the customer till the manufacturing plant, right, in between there are distribution centers. We'll try to look from the whole supply chain end-to-end perspective, understand that this is how the supply chain looks like. Then how should I set up my master data, right, in the system, so that um, if I do that kind of visualization, that this is my supply chain network, it looks like these are the set of customers, and then those set of customers will be getting their finished goods, let's say from the distribution centers. The distribution centers is getting its share from the manufacturing plants, and manufacturing plant is not manufacturing everything, but it is also buying something from the external vendors. So all this kind of perspective, right, will open up in the um, um, supply um, chain module, right, in this supply planning module. So there we'll talk about the heuristic in detail, and then what are the constraints in terms of cost. For example, if one supplier has not delivered it, right, has not delivered the quantity which it was supposed to, then some kind of penalty can be put it on the supplier. So all those kind of scenarios, we'll see that. We'll understand first the scenarios, right? And then we will see that how do we set up the kind of master data in order to implement it into the IBP system, right? So I'll just move on with the with the slide. I have couple of slides, right? So at a very high level, if you see IBP, right? Maybe some of you already are aware of this IBP. Some of you may be new to it, right? So let's take it from the scratch. So what you see on this right hand side is, the front end. You can connect to IBP using this Excel, right? Or you can connect it using the web application. Or you can also, log in through your smartphone, through your tab, and then connect it. So web is one way, and then, the Excel is another way. So now you can ask me the question, why, in what scenario we have to use Excel, right? In what scenario we have to use web? So let's say that, you are asking some information from IBP, and, now you want to know that what medium should I use? Should I use web or should I use this Excel interface, right? So just to let you know that, in a team we will have the planners also. There will be the demand planners, right? In a supply chain team, you will have the inventory planners, and then you will have the, forecast planners or capacity planning who are doing, right? So those kind of planners who are more involved in management reporting kind of stuff are very, very flexible in terms of, using the Excels, right? So from that perspective, if you see that the normal Microsoft Excel what you have, you just have to, install the Excel add-in, which is the IVP Excel add-in, and that Excel will become little powerful. It will become with additional features what we'll see in a while. So I'll show you that how, once you connect in the Excel to IVP, how what are those additional features that comes up and that makes the normal Excel as a powerful Excel, right? And then we have a different perspective of this web application. For example, if there are some dashboards, so if you see here this particular kind of dashboards you see in this particular view, which, you want to create some kind of dashboards for your management meetings, or you want to configure it. um, for example, if you want to execute the forecast, right, for the sales history that is available in the system, so where you will configure all those profiles, you have to tell to the system that how much history it has to consider to come up with, 1 year of forecast. I need to consider 2 years of history, let's say, right? So where all we configure this in the web application. So there are two things, guys. One is the web application, right? So all the kind of configurations plus the dashboard, right, will do in the web. And then in the front end, if you want to see the results, for example, if you want to see how much is the forecast calculated, now I want to view it. If I want to see that how my master data looks like, right, I can view it in the Excel format. I want to see what is my recommended safety stock, I can just open up the Excel. So whatever view I want to see, so planners will use, 80% of the time this Excel. And for example, the IBP consultants who are creating the configurations in the backend, right? So that planners can view this in the Excel. So those configurations will be created in the web application. Okay. So for now, to just understand, anyway, we'll go into detail uh, during our course also, that how do we connect to this Excel, how do we connect to this web UI, and after connection, what all we have to do, right? we'll understand step by step. So for now, you just understand one thing, that there are two main interfaces. Interface one is the Excel, interface two is the web interface, right? And then this is getting connected to something called as this engine, which is where all your setup is there. For example, your key figures data. So what is a key figure? A key figure where you will store some data. Let's say in your ECC system, you have some sales history, right? You want to now save it in IBP. So what is IBP? IBP is your planning system, right? You want to save it somewhere. So you will save it in some place. That place is known as the key figure, right? So there are different kind of key figures. We can also write some logic within the key figures. For example, uh, you know, uh, there is a stats forecast that is calculated, right? This stats forecast for a particular week, let's say it is 100, right? And apart from the stats forecast that we have stored it into a key figure called as stats forecast, this 100 value. Now there are also some marketing inputs that the marketing team is giving. So let's say that we have another key figure which is called as marketing input budget, and let's say that this is 20. Now we want to create one more key figure which is a Z key figure, or we can say which is a custom key figure, where we want to sum up. So that new key figure, we want to call it as final forecast, which is FF, and this is the sum of this plus this, right? So this will become as 120. So what I'll do is I will just create one new key figure, and in that key figure I will say that this is a kind of calculated key figure, and I will give the definition of this calculated key figure as the status forecast plus marketing input. So at this moment, if you are not able to relate that how do we create it, so we are not yet there, but you know, just to give you an overview that these kind of things we can actually do it in IBP. All these things, we'll learn step by step. And what makes it more powerful, right? So what makes IBP more powerful is, you can also create the scenarios on the fly. For example, if you want to tell to the system that, I want to change my marketing input from 20 to 10, what will be the impact if I do it for the whole product, one of the product family, right? uh, right. So if I want to do it for a whole product family, then, at the fly, I can just change it. I can create the scenarios and I can just change it so that I do not disturb the production version data. Without disturbing, I can create my scenarios there. Whatever I want to change, like 20, I want to just change it as 10 and see the impact. After seeing the impact, if that results makes sense for me, I can, accept it, and or I can share it with my manager. He can review it. Like if I'm doing these changes in the marketing input, if I'm doing some promotions also, and I see that while those promotions are being done, so my demand will increase, and this is how my plan will look like. So once my manager also reviews it and say that yeah, this looks good, then I can, just with a single button, I can say promote, and then the real data 10 will be getting copied and it will override to the production version data. So all this powerful stuff, make this particular planning more powerful. And a lot of other things, we can do. We can also, so on the left hand side you see that, for example, if you're coming from this background which is ECC background, or if you have already moved it to something called as S4, so all your execution related data which resides here, right, on your ECC system can, um, you know can integrate with this IBP system, right? So for example, your master data, your product, location, customer, all reside in the source system. This is your source system, right? And then you want to push it to the target system. Why you want to push it? Because we want to do planning in the IBP system. So what is the IBP? IBP is integrated business planning. We want to do planning in the IBP system. That's why we want to get the data from the source system. So once it comes, we can, we can run the forecast engine to calculate the stats forecast. We can create some key figures to sum up, this one in the new one. So the final plan, forecast plan will be sent it to the supply, and then there the supply related stuff will be calculated. So for now, you just understand you have a source system, and these all systems can be connected with IBP using something called as cloud platform integration. So if you don't understand, don't worry, I'll explain it once again. You have a source system here. The source system can be any system. Let's say your ECC system. It can be SAP ECC system or non-SAP ECC system. You want to connect it to the target system. The target system is your IBP system, which is your planning system. So how do you connect it? In middle, you have something called as connector, and that integration connector is known as CPI, which is Cloud Platform Integration, right? So this is how, the source system can talk to IBP system using this middleware interface. So now you guys will be learning this part, IBP part, right? So once you are into any project, right, into, let's say that if you are already into the project, you might have seen that in your team there will be some consultant called as CPI consultant. Their task will be to do the to do the mapping between your source system and your target system. What is your source system? Source system is your, for example, your ECC 6.0, or it can be the S4 system. What is your target system? Target system is your planning system. In between, the mapping expert. So there will be a CPI consultant. He will be, doing the mapping. For example, if you want to bring the sales related data from your source system to IBP system, right? In IBP, you will have the key figures where you will store that sales related data. Let's say that you have the actual quantity key figure, right? So somewhere it will be fetching from the source system, right? So on a daily basis, the batch jobs will run, and that batch jobs will make sure that the data from this source system is extracted. But at least first time for the implementation, those mappings has to be done as a one-time activity during the implementation. Who will do that? This CPI consultant will do that. What is CPI? CPI is Cloud Platform Integration. So what is this used for? This is used for connecting two systems. What are the two systems? The two systems are my ECC system or S4 system or IBP system. Is it only ECC or S4? No, it can be CRM system, it can be BPC system, it can be APO system, it can be BW system, it can be even your CSV files that can connect to IBP, right? Or it can be any other system. So any system can be connected to IBP using this CPI. So CPI is mainly for the time series kind of data, right? So for example, what is time series data? So in this week, right? In a particular week one, I have a forecast of, let's say, 100 unit. Next week, week two, I have a forecast of, let's say, 125 units, right? So according to the time, in the weekly bucket, I have this data, right? So this is nothing but this is time series data. So whenever we talk about time series data, we'll talk about this CPI. And whenever there is order based data, right? Order based kind of planning. So you have particular sales order, you have production orders. So then your middleware will be something called as SDI, right? Which is the smart data integration. So customers will use both according to their requirement, right? So guys who are coming from the APO background, right? So after this, I'll just take a little pause to understand if there are any questions. So let me just give you a little bit overview who are coming from the APO background or from the S4 background, right? Or from the ECC background. So you would have already seen that, for example, these functionalities, right? The PPDS and the GATP have already moved on to, so this blue color ones are already on the S4 HANA side. And this yellow color one, what you see. So in this yellow color, you have demand planning and you have supply network planning. So as of now, you leave this. I will talk about this a little later. So let's concentrate on these two boxes, right? So first two boxes are these one on the blue color. So one is that PPDS, another is GATP. What are these? These are the modules within the SAP APO system, right? So these functionalities have been moved to S4 system, and the demand planning and the supply network planning have been moved to this IBP system. So this one is IBP box, right? And couple of other things also that are added in integrated business planning, which is on the order based. So we're talking about time series and order based, right? So this one, like response and supply. So this is still, SAP is evolving it, and it's not that much mature as of now, as mature as, the demand module, the inventory module, the SNOP, right? So SNOP is actually a concept, it's not a module. So if you say that sales and operation planning, so your demand module and then your inventory module and then your supply side, right? So the supply side. So together it is called as SOP, you can call it as, or some people call it as SNOP, or the full form is sales and operation planning. So it's a process actually to put them together under one roof, right? And then your dashboards and all, right? You can create good amount of dashboards within no time within that Fury screen, right? So sometime back we were talking about, you have two connections. One is the Excel and another is the Fury screen, which is web based, right? So in web based, what you can do, you will do the configurations, plus you can also create good amount of charts. So now you assume that, for example, you want to present some, you want to create some chart and present it to the management, because sometimes the management people, they will rely more on the charts, right? Rather than, um, they don't want to see the data in the Excel, right? Because in the Excel you may have a lot of data, right? Your sales history, then your forecast. But if you try to plot it on a map, or on a dashboard, right? So that will be very easy. And it's very easy in IBP to create that dashboards real quick, right? For example, if you have data in your Excel, you can definitely, very quickly create the dashboard. So what will be the scope of our training, right? We'll be learning this demand side, we'll be learning the inventory side, right? So definitely we'll be covering the sales and operation planning. So we'll be learning the supply planning heuristic optimizer. We'll will learn the how to create the dashboards, right? How to automate some processes. For example, you can understand it in this way, like in the supply chain, there could be, thousands of products at various locations, right? It could be very large volume. So it's not possible for, one particular person to keep an eye if my this sales is growing up, if my sales is coming down, right? So this kind of dashboards give you end-to-end visibility, right? So those stuffs will see that, or we can also automate it. For example, it is my forecast, it is getting generated, and for every week, let's say week 1, week 2, week 3, what I can do is I can put an alert into the system. So here my forecast is, let's say, 100, but suddenly it spikes up to, let's say, 10,000, right? So 10,000 is something called as an outlier. So in week 3, let's say that again it is uh, it is coming down to 90. So this looks fine, this looks fine. So there will be so many products depending on the portfolio of the company. The product for portfolio can be in thousands or it can be in lakhs. So I don't have to sit manually and then see that, in week 2, for example, it is going out of the limit. For example, if I just define some threshold value, if the value goes beyond, let's say, 350 is some ideal number, then it should generate an alert to the planner that week 2 is violating that alert. For example, if I have given my forecast, I have generated an alert. The moment it is greater than 350, then it should send an alert to me. Why I want to do that? So that I don't have to keep an eye manually on the data, right? The moment I get an alert that there is some issue in week 2 for a particular product, right? For a particular product of, let's say, Dell laptop is a product for which suddenly the demand has spike up. Now you understand in the corona time, right? Everybody was working from home, even children's they shifted their work, school work to home. So let's say that in this corona time sudden spike has happened. So that spike is nothing but that is going out of the way, right? So you understand in that way, if you have some kind of alert mechanism which alerts you, right? So then the planner will take an timely action, and then they will see that, okay, in week 2, uh, there is a high demand coming up. What should we do about it, right? Um, it is just few weeks after we need to mitigate that particular demand. So how do we do it? How do we plan it? We'll find some planners will find some alternative vendors also to meet to cope up with that flying demand for that particular week, right? So but before coping up they should be alerted, right, by the system. So we can automate this kind of functionalities with this particular module called a supply chain control tower, right? So before I move to this one, I'll just take a little pause, to understand if there are any questions till now. Because I'll tell you guys, the most important thing is, you know, uh, any trainer can teach you, like, go in the Fury screen, click a new button, click on save, and that's not the objective that we should look into, right? As a training, at the end of the training, we all should feel that, not only at the um, end day of the training, but every day we should feel that we are able to relate it in business terms whatever we are learning. So that is more important, right? Rather than uh, you know you just type on the YouTube that I just want to create this ABC segmentation. I'm sure that 3 to 4 videos will come and you yourself can create that profile. But the important thing is to understand that what exactly is segmentation, and then um, map it to your business. So that is what we'll try to achieve as a part of our training course, so that it makes some kind of sense for every one of us, right? Together we'll learn, and then we'll share it, we'll make it more interactive. So that way I look forward to the training, right? So I'll just take a little pause to understand. So maybe one by one, maybe you can unmute yourself, guys, give a very brief introduction that what is your background and then what is the expectation you have from this course, because this will go on, right? This will never stop. So because important thing is that our frequencies should match, right? So the very important thing between the trainer and the candidate is, that frequency, if it matches, you know the training will be very good for you guys. And at the end of each day it should at least make some kind of sense for you guys. So maybe I'll just pause for a minute, yeah, one by one. I can just call it alphabetically. I just see the name here. The first one is Neha Kushal, right? You can please unmute your mic and then just give a little bit introduction and then your
Yes.
expectation. Yeah.
Mm. Myself Neha Chaudhary, and I completed my YME Master of Engineering in Structure in Civil background, and I have 10-year teaching experience. Now I want to switch my teaching and turn to SAP in SAP IBP.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, Neha, I think that's very good and hats off to you, right? Never ever in my career of this training program, I have met someone who is coming from a teaching background and want to shift to IBP. So first of all, that's very good that if you have taken that decision, definitely,
Yeah,
you will see a career out of it. Yeah. So
yeah.
uh, what I will suggest is, right, whatever background you have, you said in the mechanical engineering, right? Mostly in the
Mechanical,
civil,
no, no, no.
yeah,
Civil. I'm from
civil
civil
side. Yeah,
engineering
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
doing Master of
So, yeah,
Engineering in Structure.
okay. In structure, okay, okay. So what I'll suggest, Neha, you just, you try to read some books of the supply chain planning, so that, once you start this course, that will help you to relate. For example, we'll be talking about some scenarios in our day to day training program, so you will be able to relate. For example, there is a customer, the customer has some demand, right? That demand has to
Yeah,
be fulfilled from let's say some distribution center. So all this, not in very much detail, but at a very basic level, if you have that understanding, that's very good. But start building up. Yeah. So whether you
yeah,
join this program or not, that's a secondary thing, but just take one key away from this training program. You start studying some books on the supply chain, and you will see that that will really help you to achieve what you want to achieve in terms of switching of your career to from teaching background to IBP. So thank you, Neha. Yeah,
okay.
so next we have is the Bijay, right? Yeah, please.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, yes, Bijay.
Okay. Myself, Vijay Prasad, I have over 10 plus years of experience into SAP. So I have worked in various modules of SAP. Now, I want to venture into new technology, which is IBP, because that's I think is the direction where most of the companies are planning to go ahead.
Correct,
So
correct.
yeah, that's an expectation from my side. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So which are the modules that you have worked, Bijay, in SAP?
Uh, from ECC side, I worked on material management, production planning, sales and distribution. So these are the plant maintenance.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
think yeah, that makes sense, because the current batch what I'm taking is also have the same, expectation. They are coming from the PP and then MM, modules, and now they want to switch it over to the planning one. Yeah, so good, Vijay. Yeah, so because you already have the understanding of the supply chain, right? So do not worry. I'm sure that you will be able to cope up with IVP. And uh, this demand inventory. These are one of the easiest module that I can say. So once we go into the system, we'll first talk about the scenarios, in terms of supply chain, so that whatever you have learned in your PPMM module, you will be able to relate it, and then we will go into the system and then try to achieve this those scenarios, whatever we'll be discussing, right? Yeah. Okay, good. So Abhas,
Yeah, am I audible?
yes, yes.
Yeah, hello everyone. Myself Abhas, and I have pursued my MBA in marketing from Institute of Management Studies, and I've got experience of around 1.5 years in channel sales and FMCG sales. And post that, I did some courses related to digital marketing. And afterwards, one of my sibling is working for the same tool, that is SAP IBP. So he recommended me to join a course that is the course that is related to IBP, and he explained me about the growth prospects in this particular field. And so, listening to his recommendation, I have just begun exploring about this field. And my expectation is just that my learning is so that I can explore some career and growth prospects in this particular field. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, good, good, Abbas. So I see that you are already, coming from the background of FMCG. So I'm sure that, you will be able to relate when we talk about, forecasting stuff, all of those, right? So
Yeah, Arjinder,
definitely, yeah.
I have already watched one of your demo sessions,
Okay,
pre-recorded sessions. Yeah.
okay, okay.
So I guess till now I'm pretty much able to relate to what what is it. But
That
let's
is
see.
important. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is
yeah.
important actually. You know, everybody you cannot uh, learn it in a day or two, but maybe there will be few things which might not make sense. For example, the topics that we'll be covering on day one, but when you see those recordings again and again, at some point of time when you are there, right, that may become meaningful for you. So the key takeaway should be maximum to maximum. If you are able to grasp, let's say, not 100%, but if you are able to grasp 60 to 65% of it, then I think you are there, you are on the right direction, right? So that 65%, as the time goes on, that curve will grow, your learning curve will grow, you will be able to map up with the things, and then you will be there where you want to be. Yeah, so good, Abbas. So next is Adarsh.
Yeah, hi Harjinder. Hello everyone.
Yeah.
Myself Adarsh. I have 10 plus years of experience into SAP technical. From last 4 years of time, I'm working in SPP and APO modules. So I just want to move into functional side, and I'm just hoping to learn this IBP and have a switch.
Adarsh, you are a gem. You said SPP, that is service parts planning.
Yes, yes.
Ah, so I'm sure that you will enjoy this IBP. The reason is because uh, you know as I said, that SPP is a very niche skill within APO, and very few people will have those skills. So you will find many APO consultants, but hardly you will see there will be
Yes, yes.
hardly any SPP consultant. If you are already coming from that background, I would say that you are at the right place. So you will enjoy this course. uh, um, yeah, yeah. Puneet.
Yeah, hi. So, my name is Puneet, and I have around 12 years of experience in SAP. And previously, like I have experience on APO, where I worked on that more on GATP demand planning, a bit on SMB side, and yeah, I've studied somewhat on this IBP as well already. And so the expectation is like to get a full of hands-on so that get end-to-end clarity about all the things for the all supply chain related all like inventory, demand, and time series and order series. So all these things that I want to go into detail with all technicalities. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Puneet, your voice was not that clear to me, but I got what you said. You are from the APO background with 12 years of experience on the demand side. You have an exposure in APO, right? And then you want to
GATP
go it into GATP. Okay.
GDP demand planning. I've not worked on SNP, but I have a little idea on SNP, like on heuristic and optimizers. But yeah, and now I want to explore more on the IBP side. So yeah, and expectation is like want to go in the technical details of all of the things that if we want to configure a company
Yeah, yeah.
independently, how we can achieve all those things. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, Puneet. I think then in this particular group, right, of 5 people that we have interacted, so out of 5, 2 are from the APO background and others are from various backgrounds. So yeah, so I think then we'll take up this course in a way that everybody will try to gain, right, maximum out of it. So whether they are coming from the teaching background or they are coming from the FMCG sales, digital marketing, or they have been in SPP, right, or APO. Yeah. So good, guys. So I think anybody is left for the introduction, or I see only these many candidates. Others, I see that they joined and maybe they had some problem. So maybe we can interact. I can interact with them later on. But yeah. So coming back, guys. So I think we still have some time, some 15 minutes left. So let me just cover a little more, right, on this particular slide. So this is a very busy slide, right? So a lot of things are there. We'll try to understand bits and pieces, and then you will be able to, join the dots. So let's say that, as a part of this demand planning process, right? So for example, this segmentation. So let's say that there is very, high volume of products. Let's say that there are 1 lakh, um, 1 lakh is the volume of your product master data, right? And let's say that you are dealing with 3 different markets. So one market is the European market, right? European market. Another market is the, let's say the Asia Pacific market, and then you know uh, you have the uh, let's say uh, Asia Pacific and then America market, right? So this is AP, Asia Pacific, this is Europe. So now you think that this 1 lakh products will multiply with the combination of these locations also, right? So you have a dedicated plans for European market, you have dedicated plans for Asia Pacific market, you have dedicated plans for, you know, for the Americas region. So many of, these combinations will be uh, created, right? So let's say that this volume increases a lot. So now how this segmentation will help you? Segmentation will let you decide based on some, business rules that you will define into the system. Let's say that you want to bifurcate the um, this 1 lakh of products for European market in a way that the products that are giving the high revenue, right? So that are giving high revenue. So those products out of 1 lakh, let's say that there are 30,000 products, 30,000 products which are giving you the high revenue. So you can mark it as segmentation A, category A, right? And then which are giving the medium, which are generating the medium revenue for you, you can mark them as, let's say, those are 40K products. Now out of 1 lakh, 30K are high volume, 40K are, let's say, the medium volume, right? And then remaining is the low revenue generating, right? So how much is remaining? 40 plus 30, 70,000, and then 30K more are remaining. So let's say that this 30, another rest of the 30K are low volume project. So why you are segregating it? So that it becomes easy for you, right, to concentrate first on the product which are high revenue generating, right? Now you see from the business perspective, that if it is a high revenue generating product, right, then it means that, right, they are giving you high number of profits, right? Here the revenue is more, so you would like to concentrate more on first high revenue. That's why you will bifurcate it, you will categorize it with the category as, let's say, high revenue, you categorize as A category, right? Medium revenue, you categorize them as B category, and then low revenue generating, you categorize as C category. So this ABC categorization or segmentation is very popular standard term in any of the supply chain concept. So it is not only about IBP, right? This segmentation generally also, if you see as a part of the supply chain concept, you will come across this segmentation, ABC segmentation. So similar to ABC, we have XYZ segmentation also. So popularly it is known as ABC and XYZ, right? So there are some rules in the system that we define. So in the system, we will say that if my revenue is greater than, so and so number, right? If a particular product is contributing, let's say 70% of the profit of the total revenue, then categorize it as A, right? So where all we will define this business logic, we will define in the Fiori screen. You see this? We have two things there. One is the Excel, one is the Fiori. Fiori, what we are doing? We are doing all the configuration, right? What kind of configuration? Example this. I want to tell to the system wherever my product is generating a revenue of more than 70%, mark it as A. Wherever it is generating more than um, next, let's say 30%, mark it as B, or next, let's say 20%, right? So 70, 20, 90, and the remaining, which is 10%, whatever is remaining, mark it as C, right? What is the advantage of doing this categorization? So that I can focus on, right? The demand planner can focus on a particular category of the product, which is marked as, let's say, A, and later point of time, they can go according to the medium priority and then the low priority, right? So this will give the benefit um, to the planner that not to concentrate on all 1 lakh products, and if you multiply it with 3 regions, that will become more than 2.5 lakhs, right? So so in those cases this bifurcation is easy, and later point of time where you can use this segmentation, you see that this box arrow is going to stats forecast. So meaning you can execute first the forecast for A category of product, and then because those are high revenue generating, and then you can have the separate jobs for B category and C category, right? So you can create 3 jobs. So why you are creating 3 jobs? So you can focus on your particular kind of category, right? So this is what you can achieve. So in the stats forecast, you can also include the manual inputs by the planner, right? So for example, now you analyze that COVID situation has come, right? So COVID situation, so much of disruption has happened to the supply chain, right? So I have a slide about it. We'll go there, right, to the COVID one, that how do we see that and how IVP can help us to overcome those kind of situations, right? So whatever manual input is there with the planner, you can just club it with the stats forecast and then create a consensus final demand plan. So this is a process where you will be creating a consensus final demand plan by not only the forecast that is generated by the system, right, with the help of the models that IBP has. So IBP has several models which will help IBP to calculate the stats forecast. So in the stats forecast, the planner input can also be added. It will be plus plus, and then after adding this input, or there could be various other inputs also. There could be, um, some weather forecast. Those kind of inputs are also impacting the sales, right? So let's say there is a sales of a product which is raincoat, right? So if the weather is rainy, then the demand of the raincoat will become high, right? So those kind of inputs are also incorporated, and the final plan will be created. That final plan, after summing up all the inputs, is known as the final consensus demand plan, right? So this is what we'll see into the system and all. So I will not go to each slide, yeah, but just to let you know, for example, whenever there are some kind of disruptions, right, in the supply chain. So what happened in the COVID-19 case, right? So let's say that 2 years back this has started. So we see that there were two phases of it in terms of supply chain. If you see the COVID phase, so it was like phase one and then phase two. So in phase one, you see that the sales have been dropped, and then they have again tried to catch up, and a particular point of time in phase two that has become stable. So let's say that grocery kind of stuff, right? So suddenly people have um, um, the markets and all were closed. You remember when this COVID phase was started, and then it was a huge drop in the sales, and then there were some lines which were open up, the online stuff, and that has grown, and again the sales have been caught up for those. So if we see for an automotive industry, right, that has also impacted badly, and at a later point of time it just caught up, and then it became little bit of stable, right? So how do we do about this kind of situations? So it could be any disruption, right, that can come. A natural disaster can come, right? So all those kind of stuff also will try to see that how the IBP will try to cope up um, this kind of stuff, right? What are the techniques? So for example, the forecast that is being calculated with the help of with the help of the various statistics models. So what else can do? What else can be done to cope up, to bring the accuracy of the forecast up to the level, right? Because now you see that the demand was in a very bad shape. So the forecast also will not be in a good shape, right? The forecast also will not give the accurate results if the demand is very, very sporadic, right? It is just going down and then taking a spike. So all those kind of scenarios, how do we deal it, right? So we are at the end of the hour, so I will not take much of your time, but things like this we'll study in our curriculum. And these days um, the supply chains are becoming more and more complex, right? So how do we decide that what is the right amount of inventory that we have to keep at a particular warehouse, right, or at a distribution center? So we need to decide um, the right amount of what should be that ideal figure that I want to stock it in my warehouse today, right? So that has become very, very complex, and that has become very uncertain. So what is the impact of this, right? So the impact of this is, for example, if you are keeping too much, then your inventory holding cost will actually rise, right? Then who will not be happy? Your financial team will not be happy, right? Because your inventory holding costs are going too high. And for example, if you are not keeping enough inventory, then your customers' demand will not be fulfilled and customers will be unhappy, right? And then, for example, if you have the right inventory but not at the right place, right? Your supply chain planners are will be unhappy about it. So how do we look at this? We can look at it like this in a very simple way. you have a customer. This customer is, let's say, the Flipkart, right? So this is a Flipkart customer. This customer has a demand of 2000 units of, let's say, laptops. 2000 laptops Flipkart needs so that it can, so that end users can buy it, right? So this is the demand. So now this demand of the customer, let's say that it is getting filled from two distribution centers. One distribution center says DC1. So just 2-3 more minutes, guys. Bear with me. We are at the end of the hour. Yeah. So this is distribution center 2. So let's say that 30% of the demand is getting fulfilled by this distribution center 1. Another 70% is getting fulfilled via the distribution center 2. So out of 2000, 30% means 600 unit is getting fulfilled from DC1, distribution center 1, right? And then another, let's say 1400 unit is 70% of it. So 1400 units are getting fulfilled from DC2. Now let's say that there is one manufacturing plant, which is this one. This is the manufacturing plant. Let's call it as PL101, right? This is the plant, and this plant is manufacturing uh, that laptop. Let's say there was a requirement of 2000 Dell laptops, right? So 600 Dell laptops this is producing and supplying to DC1. Another 1400 it is producing, this plant is producing and supplying it to DC2, right? So how much of stock has to be maintained at which level? How much has to be maintained at DC1? How much needs to be maintained at DC2? How much of safety stock I should give it here so that my customer orders are filled 100%, right? I can fulfill the target service level of um, actually 100% is not possible, but at least more than 90 or 92%. That's the target service level. The, in such competitions, the customers will have it. And so how do we calculate those safety stock will be the part of this inventory planning module, right? So this is all, guys. Yeah. So thank you very much for your time, guys. Any questions? Any